And Muslim blasphemy laws call for the death of infidels who insult the Prophet Muhammad. My next guests say even many highly educated American Muslims believe that criticism of Islam should not be permitted under the First Amendment. Act for America founder Brigitte Gabriel and Center for Security Policy President Frank Gaffney join me now. All right, good evening to the both of you. Brigitte, I'll start with you. You say that large numbers of American Muslims support Sharia blasphemy laws. How does one determine that this is actually true?
Wenzel Strategies did polling data and asked highly educated American Muslims. We're talking Harvard graduates, Columbia, very well accomplished, financially successful. We're not talking about Somali taxi drivers who can barely speak English driving taxis in New York City. And these highly intellectual and educated Americans said that 58% of them do not believe that criticizing Islam or the Prophet should be protected under the First Amendment. About 45% of them said it should be criminalized. And 12% of them believe that actually people should be killed for if they would say anything bad about the Prophet. And these are highly educated Americans here on American streets. This is not some radicals in Pakistan.
Frank, what's your take on that?
Well, Brigitte is, of course, absolutely right, and it's all the more stunning that our own president is engaged in basically trying to enforce Sharia blasphemy laws himself. You may remember, Judge, that back in September of 2012, shortly after the attacks in Benghazi, he went to the United Nations General Assembly and said, quote, "The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam," unquote. That is basically the meme of these various jihadists and those who adhere to Sharia. And I just want to make this one point. Several of your guests have spoken about President al-Sisi of Egypt's very impressive appearance at Al-Azhar University on the 1st of January. And the thing that is so striking to me about that is he went right to what some call the Vatican of Islam to make that statement, which means that it's not just radicals or extremists, certainly not all Muslims, but the authorities of Islam embrace not only the Sharia blasphemy, the capital offense, as Brigitte says, but the whole program and seek to impose it on the rest of us. And our president seems to be aligned with them, not with President al-Sisi, or for that matter, those of us who are standing up against it.
You know, Frank,
and if I can add one thing,
go ahead, Brigitte.
If I can add one thing, Judge, at the Assembly of Muslim American Jurists, AMJA, also, which is a very respectable organization in the United States, very respected. They are very influential. They sit on university boards, Islamic mosques, imams, etc. They sanction the killing of any infidel who commits blasphemy against Islam. And these are the Assembly of American Muslim Jurists. I mean, this is how mainstream it is here in America.
Well, you know, when you talk about this thinking, I mean, you know, you've got these blasphemy laws and Sharia, and now we're hearing about these no-go zones in Europe and Sharia courts in Europe. Is that a reality? I mean, are there as many as 700 of them, Frank? Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, there are. 751, I think, is the latest count in France alone. These are areas in which the authorities dare not go because basically it's too dangerous for them. These are areas that are ruled effectively by Sharia. And the question is, are we on a different trajectory as far as these folks? The Muslim Brotherhood is the prime mover behind it. I would suggest to you that it's not the case. We've done a booklet just recently on Sharia being introduced into our courts. It's available for free at securefreedom.org. I encourage people to look at it because, just as Brigitte says, it talks about this AMJA organization as a prime mover behind trying to get Sharia inculcated into our court systems, as the Brotherhood is trying to do really all of our civil society institutions for the express purpose of destroying Western civilization from within. That's a quote from them.
Okay, and Brigitte, of course, Act for America, your organization, American Law for American Courts. Talk about that.
Yes, we actually worked with Frank on that. And what we're trying to do, there's a law called American Laws for American Courts, which said no law that is not compatible with the Constitution of the United States should be allowed to be used in any American courtroom. And we're starting to pass that law. We passed it already in 9 states, and we are introducing it into 20 states this legislative session. We want people from all states watching this program to go to our website, actforamerica.org, and email us and get on our email list, so when we introduce that bill in your state, we want to be able to reach you to make sure this bill passes in your state. To make sure.
Brigitte, the idea that we have to pass a law to say American law and American courts, I mean, where are we? I mean, the Constitution is the law of the land, is it not?
It should be, it is, but with the rise of Islamic immigration, we are starting to see the introduction of Sharia law. Actually, Frank, on their website, the Center for Security Policy, have documented in detail the different Sharia cases in American courtrooms in over 22 states. And I encourage people to go to that website and read the details and go to our website and get engaged.
Let me ask
more than that. It's 35 states now.
Do you expect to see no-go zones in the United States?
I think there are areas of the United States where it's already becoming a little bit sporty. You know, Dearborn, Michigan is one example. We've had populations of Muslims dropped in this country as refugees in areas they are not assimilating. They are becoming, I'm afraid, sort of ghettoized, and that is an incubator for precisely this problem of Sharia exclusive areas. And again, I want to emphasize, not all Muslims subscribe to this or want to impose it on anybody else. But the trouble is the authorities do, and most of those who are being brought here, whether it's Somalis or Syrians or Bosnians or others, are bringing that with them as their preferred practice. And it is the formula for, I believe, no-go zones and a lot worse down the road.
You know, it sounds like these no-go zones, to the extent that they exist or are coming here, are nothing more than caliphates within the United States or within the country that they're in. Yes?
Indeed. I think that's the idea, is they're going to try to create a vehicle for establishing exclusivity. It's an Islamic supremacist program. That's what it is at its core.
All right, Brigitte and Frank,
we already
thanks so
have
much.
compounds in the country.
Oh,
thank you.
All right, thanks so much to both of you.
Thank you.
And up next,